Very heavy terracotta clay sculpture of a Native American culture type look. It could be Hispanic. It's just a woman that I saw in a place that I was eating breakfast in Austin, and she had just finished a big stack of pancakes about like that, and she took a nap in her chair when she was finished. That's why her eyes are closed. And she was so relaxed and so comfortable with her size and herself and her moment that I grabbed my napkin and drew a picture of her. Then I went over to the sculpture studio on Tillery in Austin and began to talk about that and show the sketch. And they said, let's just go ahead and let you do a sculpture of it. But I want to talk to you today about the fact that this is so heavy. So I'm going to turn it over if I can, because I had to, and you can look up inside of it and see where I had the armature. The armature was made on wood with a big piece of wood wrapped with rags and stuff, and then I started putting clay in big pieces on that to build up the underlying form of this sculpture. I'm going to turn it around so that you can see that it's a little bit shiny, but it's only been fired in the kiln one time. The shininess on this is made with Johnson's floor wax after it's been fired one time. You take a real rough brush and then you get that real soft wax, and then you just rub it all over there and let it dry. It's need to have a nice place where your ventilation is good, because I wouldn't think it's real healthy to breathe it. And then once it's dry, you take a real horsehair brush like they would polish military boots with, and you start to polish it. And it becomes this wonderful, it gets this wonderful, fun patina to touch. And I believe that art that's sculptural should be touchable. I think people ought to be able to touch things and see how it feels and see how it was made. I really believe that. So anyway, that's kind of a little bit of the story about this figure. The clay is terracotta. It has a little grog in it, which is like a granulated sand, which gives the clay a dryability and a little forgiveness so that it doesn't have so much of a tendency to blow up in the kiln with air bubbles and things escaping when it gets so hot. It gets over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit in there, which is like inside of a volcano. So it's pretty neat thinking about that, this going through that heat. Anyway, I love this. I love to touch this, and I love people that come in the studio to feel free to touch this. This sculpture over here was done by a famous artist, and I have sat here and laid on the floor and looked at it from every angle possible. But one of the things, this is not terracotta, this is bronze, and it also is very heavy, and you can see how it is underneath also. Same principle, only a different material and a different method. But to touch a sculpture is just, to me, it's just so much fun. And this is just a wonderful piece right here. I love it. It's a peasant woman making bread. So she's just there. And all of the shape of her is like a Henry Moore sculpture to me. And I just adore it. This artist, and I won't be able to tell you who he is right now because I would need to get permission, but he studied under Zuniga. And I studied Zuniga in a textbook in art history. So that'll tell you a little bit about this artist. He's been deceased for quite a few years. But I feel very blessed to have this in my art studio for people to look at, to touch. And this table here is where I do my envelopes, where I mail things in these envelopes. And this is also an example of that language. And each one is different. It's a different time of day or a different feeling that I'm having. I love this message. This seems to be something almost like a recipe for happiness. And this one doesn't seem like a recipe for happiness. This seems like a warning to me to be careful about something. I wonder what. I would love to know. These are some bamboos and weeds and the message again. Now this is the brush that I use for that, and these are the inks. And that's a whole nother lesson. We'll get to that another day. But here we are in the Myrick Studio, and there's a lot of stories to be told here. And